Hello, I'm Colin Green, and you are listening to Spikepit.
Hey Colin, Jason here. Really enjoyed episode 430, the Fireside Chat. It's great with you checking in with us, letting us know what's going on. Exciting stuff. Yeah, when the time comes, no reason to rush it. When the time comes, if there's already interest in miniatures or board games, and go that route in school. The key is to get the kids doing something, right? And any of these hobbies are just wonderful. They're all different facets of the same thing, really. So, but great. Glad to hear the family's doing well. Glad to hear that things are moving forward in a positive manner. And yeah, we're at the point now with the house, we need to do some packaging and burning and, and some stuff. So I'm working on that. Also, as far as turning the device off at night and just getting some reading at night, that's somewhere I'd like to get to. Not there yet, but I'll try to take a page out of your book. So take care, my friend.
My old buddy Jason, with timing as impeccable as ever, providing me a perfect segue into what I want to talk about in this episode. Onwards, ever onwards, I have made it through what is widely understood to be the toughest term in teaching. It's the long autumn term, the nights drawing ever in, the days getting shorter and shorter. It's a tiring term. Maybe not so bad for a trainee. We don't teach anything like the amount of time that a full-time teacher teaches, but when you're learning, it's that bit more difficult when you've got kind of coursework related stuff. So yeah, I don't know, but it's not a point scoring exercise. I'm done at my first placement at the girls' school, and now moving on to placement number 2 in January. It's more in town, in the centre of town there, right in the heart of Luton, and looking forward to it. A real mixed bunch of kids. I've met a few of the classes before, and yep, I'm going to be teaching engineering, so we'll see how that goes. Actually been doing a little bit of my own engineering. Yesterday, fixing the boiler, had to switch out a diverter valve, which, for those who maybe don't know too much about boilers, you've got a heating circuit and a hot water circuit, and the diverter valve is a kind of a diaphragm that switches on demand between the two, and when it doesn't work, you don't end up with any hot water when you need it. It just kind of fluctuates in and out because there's a diaphragm that gets weak. And yeah, long story short, nearly blew myself up because I shut down the heating circuit with the isolator valves, the flow and return, fired up the boiler before I'd opened them again. And yeah, there's a lot of hot air and steam and everything, and a pump operating on a very small amount of pipe work. The pressure goes through the roof, and consequently a blown gasket, and all my good work gone to waste. Water leaking out from everywhere. I had to strip it back down, start the process all over again. Managed to get the PCB wet in the process, which I'd taken great pains to keep dry during the actual initial repair. So yeah, no heating, no hot water yesterday, but it dried out by the morning, and Christmas miracles do happen. It fired up and we're back in business. So in his message, Jason mentions the reading. I've been really good keeping on with the reading. I've finished Splintered Kingdom, and I'll come on to that later. I've got a call from Karl about that one. I've read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, like a dystopian novel. It's pretty famous. I believe there was a maybe 1960s, late 60s, perhaps 70s film version of it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a bit of a classic now at this point. Gave me quite a few RPG type ideas, as you might expect. Really quite disturbing, really. But there you go. That's what you expect from dystopia. I've also picked up a book. I talked a while ago about a film called Blinded by the Light. It's a story of a young fella from Luton. I saw the film and was so intrigued by his story. I thought, well, for a few quid I could pick up the book and have a read. Well, it's been a long time since I have picked up a book and read it literally from cover to cover. So I got it on a Friday night. I finished reading it by the Saturday night. I don't even know if I've ever done that before. It's called Greetings from Berry Park. It's just because I think it resonated with me. It's nicely written, easy to read. It's got so many of kind of shared memories from a different perspective that it just was a real page turner for me. I knew the places, I knew the time, I knew the popular culture, and it just kind of carried me along. So having read that book, I noticed some commentary on that book by a guy, I can't think what his name is of the author now. He wrote The Buddha of Suburbia and My Beautiful Laundrette, a screenplay. I've picked up the book and I'm in the process of reading through that. Now, I quite like these books about places, so the next one on my list is going to be a book about the M25. Now, this is to folks who are not familiar with the roads in the UK. The M25 is like a big orbital motorway that goes around London. It's kind of famously an orbital car park. It's referred to as an orbital car park because the traffic can be so bad. Sometimes you're just sort of sitting there, basically parked up. It was opened in 1986 by Margaret Thatcher, and it's got quite an interesting history. I've downloaded the sort of like sample for Kindle just to sort of see if I like the writing style, and I'll probably pick that one up. It sounds like a sort of super kind of tedious theme, if you like, but it goes into all the history of the areas around the M25 inside and out. And the guy, it's kind of a travelogue because he's walking around the M25 in various sections, and it's, you know, his discoveries and descriptions along the way. I've got a feeling his name might be Ian Scott, but I'm not sure about that one. So I said I'd keep up with the reading, and I have. I've also been still working through selling off sections of my collection. My board game sales going pretty well. I've actually managed to sell my copy of The Curse of Strahd, and the reason I sold that is because we're actually playing it. My brother won the big box set Beadle and Grimm special edition thingamajig from the Dungeon Musings channel. Kev Madison there, he does a charity raffle. My brother won it, and it's this amazing collection of stuff in this huge box. All your play aids and maps. The adventure's broken down into several booklets. There's funny little finger puppets in there. There's like a DM screen. You name it. It's in, like monster cards, cards for the NPCs with all the artwork on, and just loads of goodies inside this box. And we've been playing it now for is it 2, maybe 3? I think we've played 3 sessions so far. We're still in the early stages, but absolutely loving it. It's the only RPG that I'm actually managing to play in at the moment. Finding it really difficult to kind of keep focus on my studies and maintain a kind of level of interest in my hobbies. So it's easy to be kind of a workaholic, but I think if I can just carve out that one evening a week for the RPGs, and then I try and keep at least a couple of evenings at the weekend free for the family as well, and that seems to be working out all right. But yeah, so back to the Curse of Strahd. There's 3 players and DM Ricky running. I'm playing a halfling barbarian called Biff. We've got now what is he? A ogre paladin, a young ogre paladin. He's like an adolescent called Gut, and I mentioned before he's kind of an NPC turned into a PC for this. And him and Biff are kind of like, well, they were basically running a kind of logistics company, for want of a better word, haulage, and they were moving furs about and doing a bit of trading. And then they've run into this guy who's a cleric who's looking for some fella called von Richthofen, somebody von Richthofen, something like that. And they're in Barovia. So we've got, and he's quite fanatical. So we've ended up fighting these sort of zombies and vampire spawn and all sorts of stuff. And we're only just 3 sessions in there, already at 3rd level. This is unheard of for our group to be advancing at this rate. So that's 2 level ups in 3 sessions. Totally unheard of, but it works well, and I'll be interested to see how it goes. Now, my brother, he has been doing a lot more gaming than me lately. Actually, talking about the Dungeon Muser, he's jumped into a couple of games with Kev. He's been playing, or is it one game? He's been playing a 2nd edition AD&D, and coming up later, like I say, Karl Rodriguez, the GMologist, check him out, a podcaster, and he is running Jackals, which, if you're a regular listener, you'll know I do like some Osprey games, and Jackals is one of the more recent games that they've put out in their RPG line. From what I gather, he really enjoyed it. I think it's quite a different game. That's something I'm eager to find out more about. The game is playing with John Large of Red Dice Diaries is ongoing, Smoke and Snow, and really I could do with checking some of that content out on YouTube when I've got a minute, just to see how they're getting on, and touch base with a story and see my old buddy John in action. If you're interested in some live role-playing sessions, check that out on the Smoke and Snow up on YouTube, Red Dice Diaries. I think in terms of role-playing, that's all the news I've got. Other than I made a switch to Apple as my operating system of choice, and I've got the Affinity publisher and designer and photographer on there, so all my RPG stuff is being done on a laptop now instead of my old desktop. So I'm hoping I'll be able to grab a few more opportunities and perhaps throw a few things together, some ideas, some artwork. I've been messing about with flowcharts and diagrams as part of my teaching, doing a lot of slide presentations, and I can see a lot of those skills being quite transferable into the kind of realms of RPGs. And interestingly, I've also found that being a DM and preparing stuff and kind of, sort of entertaining people, it is quite good practice for teaching, I've found. When I got up in front of the class and kind of almost performing, it didn't feel super strange. The thing that I'm struggling with a little bit at the moment is the whole business of assessment and assessing kids. Sometimes it feels a bit funny kind of casting judgment on things that to me seem really quite subjective. Anyway, I've promised long enough. I've mentioned him a few times. We have got a little bit of a historical update from my buddy Karl now.
Yeah, it was Roger de Montgomery, the first Earl of Shrewsbury. And he was one of William the Conqueror's principal counselors. Maybe he didn't fight in 1066 at Hastings, but he stayed behind to govern Normandy and then was brought over. So, he, interesting person. Of course, like, it's always like the father is a great man, but then sometimes his children, maybe because they were spoiled on the wealth of the parent, are not so nice people. So, Anyway, it's a very interesting and odd history, that whole period. And be fun to study out. Maybe play a game there. And his notorious son was Robert de Bellem, who was noted for his, here it is, alleged cruelty. So the chronicler Orderic Vitalis called him grasping and cruel, an implacable persecutor of the Church of God and the poor, unequaled for his iniquity and the whole Christian era. So it might have inspired the legend of Robert the Devil, but he was a thorn in the side of the person who would originally become Henry I of England, because he sided, generally speaking, with Henry's brothers in Normandy during that whole who's going to be the next heir after William died, because they didn't know how to figure that out back then, apparently.
So cheers for calling in, Karl, showing your knowledge as ever. Love to get these kind of calls. I remember Vance would quite often call in with this type of information as well, another learned listener. And yeah, I've still got a list of books that Vance recommended in the past that I'm yet to check out. I think it won't be much longer now before I'm back in the DMing seat and a revisit to Chult, so perhaps it'd be a good time to read up on some of those river journeys again. I do like these travel log type of books, and as interesting as the Norman Conquest is, I did find the Splintered Kingdom a little bit simplistic in terms of the way it was written. I think I would have liked something a little bit more challenging to push myself. It's super accessible and really kind of just easy, and I think, I don't know, there's almost a certain dullness in that for me. But if you like following along the exploits of one particular character, I believe there's at least 3 books in that series, and I read the middle one. Whilst it was thoroughly enjoyable, I'm not reaching out to pick up the 3rd or the 1st. I feel like I've got enough of that character, the main character, I forget his name now, to have felt that it's now time to move on. And talking of moving on, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Wishing you all the best over this holiday season, and if I don't see you or speak to you before then, have a great new year. And that, as they say, is a wrap. Big thanks goes out to you, the listener, for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to old Spikepit. Take care, and I'll catch you later.